Hey, welcome back to Learn to Burn. I'm Haley Russell, the artist behind Wisp and Mallet, and today we'll take a look at how I wood burned the feathers on this Great Blue Heron in my piece, Solitude. Starting with the head and the neck, the feathers are long, almost hair-like. Herons have that sort of crest on their head, so those get a little stronger definition, but they're really just long, almost parallel lines. From there, it was a lot of making medium-length strokes following the shape of the neck. The most challenging part was the way this bird had bent his neck back and then turned his head to the side. To give the separation of that bend in the neck, I tried to really focus on the direction the feathers were flowing based on what part of the neck they were on. The feathers further up the neck, closer to the head, followed a sort of backward letter C shape, and I also tried to make sure they were shaded just a little bit darker, especially up under the white in his face, and down where the bend in his neck is hidden behind the part that comes forward. The lower part of his neck that comes down and meets his chest, most of those feathers are closer to straight up and down. I worked the neck feathers in layers, first just getting in the directionality of the feathers in kind of loose strokes, taking a break to work on the big wing feathers for a while, then going back to look at the neck again with fresh eyes and putting in darker sections of shadows to give some depth and definition. I did this maybe 4 or 5 times until I got the neck to a level of definition I felt pretty happy with. For me, the most enjoyable part of working on this piece was doing the large feathers of the wings. This poplar wood slab was really dense and smooth, and getting a nice even tone over a fairly large area was pretty easy with my spear shader, but the poplar was also a little darker than some of the wood I tend to work with, so making sure there was enough contrast between the feathers and the background without burning really dark was a bit of a challenge. I tried to make sure that the feathers on the edge of the bird against the background were dark enough to give contrast, but still light enough to look like a gray bird. Once that was achieved, the trick was to give darker shadows along the visible tops of the feathers that were layered underneath the feather above. The feathers on the chest and the belly of the bird were really small and fine, almost more fur-like than the feathers on the neck. They were almost the lightest part of the bird besides the white face feathers. My technique for this was pretty similar to the way I worked the neck, just with much shorter strokes, very light pressure, and a low temperature setting. I gave a little bit of shading attention to the line of the definition down the middle of the bird's belly, as well as to the section that was shadowed a bit by the front edge of the closest wing to the viewer. Thanks for following along. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or have any ideas of other topics you want to see me cover. Keep going, and I'll see you next time.